We are back with Journey to Ungoro. This is the first Hearthstone expansion to have the now standard format of 2 legendaries, 3 commons, 3 rares, and 2 epics. So I will try to do 3 per class, but since Ungoro is a expansion we already got buffs towards, I probably won't do that many, let's be honest. Like, a lot of these cards already were buffed. But anyway, should be pretty simple, I'm not going to lie, especially for Druid, which of course is where we're going to start. Nothing crazy to start. Of course, Earthen Scales, it was nerfed to 2 mana because of Standard, never reverted. It really wasn't that good in Wild, let's be real here. Linecracker Druid might have been a little obnoxious, but it wasn't a good deck, and that nerf completely killed it. As well as the Floop nerf makes Linecracker not exactly doable anywhere much anymore anyway. So we can revert Earthen Scales back to 1 mana. There was no reason for it to be fucking 2 mana, man. Like, why did they not revert it? I could not tell you. It should definitely go back to 1 mana. Agro Druid has been struggling in Wild for a long time, and what a very iconic card of the past was Living Mana. They are treants. So I think with new treant support and things like that, it would be really cool if we had Living Mana down to, say, 3 mana. It still has the downside of requiring all your mana, and then they have to be killed to get your mana back, so it's not that great. But it does summon treants. We've gotten some pretty decent treant support recently. So I was thinking, okay, what if, we just buff Living Mana to 3 mana, puts a lot more in line with where a card like this should be in today's game. And I think this is just really cool. Treant Druid, people love that deck. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have Living Mana be 3 mana. The Marsh Queen is one of the few cards I'm going to talk about that's already been buffed. It was buffed to make Queen Carnassa have Rush, and then you would shuffle 20 instead of 15 Raptors. I think the issue with this card is still the quest itself. Playing 7 1-cost minions is really bad, it's really hard to do, and it really fucks up your deck. I was thinking maybe 4. And if you do 4, it would probably be a lot better. And by a lot, I mean a lot. It might be a little too fast, though, because you would just play Trinket Tracker into Awakening Tremors, and then you get it instantly. Would that matter, though? I don't think so. Let's be real. You can only play Queen Carnassa on turn 5 anyway, so all this does is make the deck a little more consistent. It's fine, the deck, in slower metas. Like, when we had Even Warrior, it was actually pretty decent because it just, dominated the Even Warrior matchup. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't buff the Marsh Queen. People thought that the old version of this card was going to be, super broken, but running 1-mana minions fucking sucks. Especially in Hunter, which I've talked about this a million times. Hunter has some of the worst 1-mana minions in the entire game. So it's really hard to make it work. And then it only really started being kind of decent in Titans when you got Awakening Tremors. Awakening Tremors is the only reason this card has ever had any chance of being playable. So yeah, I think to 4, probably fine. Some of you may remember Raptor Hatchling being really important to get off Build-A-Beast in the Control Warrior matchups during, Roscon's Rumble and different points in time of, Death Knight Rexar. Because it would shuffle in the deck. That doesn't matter anymore in today's game, shuffling it into your deck. So I was thinking, what if it was add into your hand. The thing about the 4/5 Raptor, though, is it's 1 mana. So would that be too strong? Probably. I cannot lie to you. I was thinking, it would be really interesting. What if it was, maybe a 4/3 Raptor? It's still 1 mana, you have to remember, because I don't even know why it is. I'm going to be honest with you. But I think this would make the card, better. It would be significantly better. It would give Hunter an actually good 1-drop. Oh my god, I know, right? Hunter having a good 1-drop? Illegal. But it would be nice. It would make it so you have, pretty aggressively satted 2/1 that gives you a very strong 4/3 that only costs 1 mana. So you have that tax of being, stat. But you have to compare this to other, 1-mana cards in the game. Fucking Void Touch Attendant, Fillet Fighter, Jolly Roger, Shadow Bomber. It's so much worse than other 1-mana minions that there's no reason that you can't just push it a lot. I don't think a 4/5 would be fair. That would be way too strong. Don't get me wrong. But when you're just completely outmatched when it comes to 1-mana options, Hunter can be given so many different buffs and so many different variations that could make it interesting. And I think Raptor Hatchling is easily one of those cases. I'm going to do 3 Hunter cards because Hunter just has a much more interesting set than Druid. I might not do 3 for every other class, but, I think 12-year Warden, why could it not be like a 2-mana 2/3? Unironically. This wouldn't be too strong. Again, as I've always said, Hunter has bad 1-drops. You can't run this in Even Hunter. This would only be if you specifically are trying to tutor out specific 1-drops. It would give Hunter access to some actually good card draw because you would draw 12-year Warden. 12-year Warden would draw you your Trinket Tracker and your Sing-Along Buddy, or not Sing-Along Buddy, sorry, your Costume Singer, and then those would draw you more cards. Yeah, that might be too good for Hunter to have access to a lot of card draw like that, but we just got Bargain Bin, and that's the first good card draw card Hunter has gotten in ever. I'd say it's really good. It is a really good card. It's definitely the best one we've had since Buzzard, and Buzzard came out 10 years ago. So that should say a lot about Hunter card draw. But yeah, I don't see any issue with drawing 1-mana minions. 12-year Warden was already super overcosted. Yeah, maybe you could argue it should be 3 mana, and then I'd be sure. But at 4 mana, what the fuck, dude? Come on, dude. It's Ungoro, and we're talking about Mage. I have to talk about Meteor. I think Meteor could be 5 mana easily, no question. Not a question at all. It could easily be 5 mana. I was considering what if you made it 4 mana, but Meteor has to be able to kill. Oops. 1 second. The meme always was Meteor has to be able to kill Ultrasaur because that's 14 health. So if I made it 4 mana, I couldn't keep it as 15 damage because that would be way too much. And then it has to be able to kill Ultrasaur. So I'm okay, 5 mana is the only real buff you can give to this card. It's such an iconic Mage card. It's so cool. It's one of the few cards that actually cares about positioning. It's just a great card. I love it so much. I wish that we could play it, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's just so bad. I was thinking also deal 15 damage to a minion, and deal excess to adjacent minions. I was thinking that, right? Deal 15 damage to a minion and deal excess to adjacent minions. This would be a lot better of a card. You would play it into giants. If you played it into giants, it would deal 8 to 1 giant and then 7 to the 2 next to it. So you still have to somehow deal that 1 damage. I think that's the perfect kind of breakpoint for this kind of card. Or if you ping the giant and then play Meteor, it'll kill the middle giant and then kill the next 2, but that's 7 mana. I think that's a really good use case of where this kind of Meteor would go. And I think that's fine. I think that's cool. I think it gives Mage a kind of control game plan it can work towards. Being able to deal with giants is very hard. And yeah. And then obviously, if I'm talking about Meteor, I have to talk about Pyros, super iconic Mage legendary from this era. It's such a simple change. You just write Rush. Wow. Suddenly Pyros goes from completely useless to actually kind of decent as a value generating card. It's really good at killing different boards. I just don't. This should be a good card, right? Because the 2/2 with Rush is fine, not amazing. But then you get a 4 mana 6/6 with Rush, Deathrattle, get an 8 mana 10/10 with Rush. That's really good. I think this would see maybe some play in a Big Spell Mage if Big Spell Mage could come back in the future. I love Pyros. It would probably be decent in a Reno Mage, but I maybe not because you don't want to run Elementals when you have Mezzadune because you want to be hitting Sleet Skater, but I don't know. I feel like this would just be a cool card, and I don't really see any issue why we couldn't have Pyros with Rush on all of 3 stages. So for Paladin, I want to buff Galvadon. Galvadon sucks so goddamn much. I don't know why Galvadon can't just be, like, adapt 8 times. The issue with the Galvadon quest is not that getting Galvadon is hard. It's that Galvadon himself sucks as a quest reward because he's only good if you hit Stealth or Divine Shield or Elusive. You have to hit one of those 3, and it's really hard to do for 5 times. At 8 times, it becomes significantly easier because things like Stealth, Wind Fury, Taunt, Poisonous don't stack. So if you get those as an option, you won't get them again. So you're more likely to get the good options of, Stealth, Elusive, Divine Shield. Again, doesn't stack. I think 8 is the perfect number. He's a 5-mana 8/8, adapt 8 times. Like, come on. It's Galvadon, dude. Everyone knows the song. It's such a cool card. People love Galvadon even till this day. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do this. Then the other card I want to talk about is Hydrologist. This card was buffed to cast a secret, yes, but I think this card could be like 1 mana. Like maybe like a 1 mana 1/1. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. This would be like a really cool card for things like Odd Paladin, which is struggling immensely. Murloc Paladin would love this. Like a Reno Paladin would be able to use it more efficiently now because it's a 1 mana 1/1. I think this would be like such a good card. It might be a little too strong, actually. I'm not gonna lie, but I think that we can push like a good Murloc in Paladin. There's no reason why we can't push a card like this. I like the design of this, right? Casting and discovering a secret is really interesting, especially because Paladin secrets are 1 mana, so it's not like you're getting a 3 mana secret, right? Where it would be a lot more dangerous to put it like this. And Paladin secrets kind of aren't great to begin with. Like, yeah, you have Oh My Yogg, and then you have, like, the 3/4, like, Galloping Steed, or whatever the fuck it's called, the 3/4 Taunt one. You have, like, they're not amazing Paladin secrets. I can't even remember them all. Like, Avenge, you have the Divine Shield one, you have Noble Sack, things of that nature. So I think that a card like this could be fine out as 1 mana 1/1. It would be pushed. Do not get me wrong. This would be a very strong card. But I think that that's fine. Paladin is struggling in Wild a lot. Odd Paladin is fucking dead. Murloc Paladin completely unplayable. There's no reason that we can't give Paladin a really strong card. Another buff that I want to give to a quest reward is Amara, Warden of Hope. 5 mana 8/8, taunt, set your hero's health to 40. That's not really useful in today's game because you have Renathal. If it is already 40, increase it by 10. Let's do this to make it not look as weird. Okay, 5 mana, 8/8, taunt, battlecry, set your hero's health to 40. If it is already 40, increase it by 10. So if you aren't playing Renathal, if you play 2 Amaras, it'll set you to 50 on the next one. If you are playing Renathal, it'll set you to 50. This is really cool, and honestly, I'm going to put this as the thumbnail, one of the thumbnail cards. You can tell that right now. But yeah, oops. Well, fuck. There we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, Quest Priest has been pretty much unplayable in Wild for a long time. It's an interesting enough archetype that lends you a reason to play a Deathrattle Priest. You'll get Amara as your quest reward, and then you can play towards, like, maybe killing your opponent with Zyrella using Deathrattles that deal damage, or, going super late. Priest does not really have a control deck in Wild at all right now. If you say that Reno Priest is a control deck, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not. So I think that giving Priest, like, a slower game plan, buffing Amara by a lot, actually, this is a pretty significant buff, I'm not gonna lie, it is a good way to do it. Like I'm saying, it also lends to the buffing of, or the playing of a Deathrattle Priest, so if we get more and more powerful Deathrattle Priest support cards, this would be really cool. Throughout the series, I've said multiple times that I will nerf cards if they are too strong and they are poorly designed, and I did it with Ice Block. I didn't really have any reason to do it with any other card up until now. Radiant Elemental. Radiant Elemental. What? Why? Why are you still 2 mana. You know what? If Girl goes to 4 mana, Radiant Elemental goes to 4 mana. If you ask me, I don't see why Radiant Elemental still costs 2 mana. I don't see it. It's so fucking goddamn broken. We just suffered a full meta of Miracle Priest a few months ago, and we suffered Zarimi Priest as well, recently. Radiant Elemental, I don't care if you like this card. You have to admit it is not healthy for the game for a card like this to exist. There's a reason that Sorcerer's Apprentice got nerfed. Radiant Elemental, same exact fucking reason, needs to be nerfed. I'm not going to leave Priest with only 1 buff card and 1 nerf card, though. I think that Curious Glimmer, why could it not just be like a 1 mana 1/2? I mean, like, it has its work. So compare this to Psychic Conjurer, where it's 1 mana 1/2 and it just straight up adds it to your deck from your opponent's deck to your hand. There's no reason that Curious Glimmer can't be 1 mana. It's a cool card. People love this card. It's one of the few cards that like skill tests you, and it should be rewarded by being like a 1 mana. I think it could be a 1 mana 2/2, and that would be fair. Compare it to like Miracle Salesman, and it's still worse. It requires you to actually get the prediction right. So if you don't, it's still 1 mana 2/2. Don't get me wrong. But it's not a guaranteed upside. I mean, if cards like Miracle Salesman are coming out, which are super powerful 1 mana 2/2s that give you a good card because you can trade it, you can have Curious Glimmer as a card as a 1 mana 2/2. I mean, yeah, you might think this is a little strong, but like, not really. I just don't see it. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's better now by a lot, but I really don't see this card being too strong. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it would be completely fine. Maybe I'm biased, but I think Vios Player is one of the most interesting cards ever printed. It's a minion combo assassinate. People love this card. It is a fan favorite card. And I think that it could easily be 4 mana without any other changes. No question. Assassinate is 4 mana. Vios Slayer can be that, because Assassinate was 5 mana before. No question. I think if you want to push this card, it could easily be like a 3 mana 2/3. I think it does need to be understated, though. I think that is a good design for this card. It has to be understated because it's also killing a minion. But I think 4 mana 3/4, completely fair. Not within question. But fuck it, we ball. Fuck it, we ball. Fuck it, we ball. Fuck it, we are goddamn balling. -2 mana, -1/1 in stats. Fuck it, we're balling, dude. Maybe destroy a random enemy minion, so it's a little worse. But, I mean, fuck it, we're goddamn balling. I want Vios Slayer to be back. It's such an iconic Hearthstone card. People love this card. They loved playing it. Fuck it, man. Fuck it, we're goddamn balling. Charizard is actually a pretty interesting card. I think that you could just add Rush to it, and it would be significantly better. Because every time it comes out of being dormant, it will have Rush. Playing 4 cards is pretty not easy. I mean, yeah, it's easy for Rogue, but it's still not the easiest thing in the world, especially because you have this 4 mana, tax that you gotta play. And then you have to compare it to Rat King, which Rat King is bad. Rat King is bad. Charizard is -1 mana, but playing 4 cards in a turn is not that easy. Like, yeah, you can do it maybe twice, but after that, you're gonna run out of gas. Versus Rat King, where it's just, I think it's 5 minions die or something like that to respawn, which that's a lot easier than playing 4 cards multiple times over. You can get much more activators with Rat King than you can Charizard. Maybe let's nerf the stats, right? Maybe like a 4/3 with Rush. That would be a little more fair. 6/3 is a lot, but I think this would be cool. Charizard is a really cool card. It was good when it came out, but just kind of fell off a lot. I think that we could easily have Charizard be a fun, playable card again with these kind of changes. Another quest reward that I want to buff is Megafin. Megafin is fucking terrible. Do not play the quest in your Murloc Shaman. I don't know why people do it. I get that they might just think it's fun, but Megafin fucking sucks, okay? Okay, let's get that out of the way. I think that it should be Battle Cry for the rest of the game. Your Murlocs have Rush. Filling your hand with Murlocs is completely useless. I don't care if it's not in theme with the card originally. Filling your hand with Murlocs is useless because Murlocs already generate infinite Murlocs. Howdy Fin, Underbelly Angler, like cards like that, already are generating infinite Murlocs. So having something like this, quest reward after already playing 8 Murlocs, which is very hard, that's not easy to do, to get Megafin, which is this big 5-mana 8/8 Murloc with Rush, and then it gives all your other Murlocs Rush for the rest of the game. I think that's fine. I think Rush is a mechanic that is really good for making like these super old, super slow cards better, and it's not like it makes them too strong, because it doesn't actually make them better into slow decks at all. It makes them better into other aggro decks, which is fine. That's like why Rush is a good mechanic, is it's completely useless into decks that don't really play minions, which are most slow decks, but it's really fucking good into other faster decks, which is where you're struggling immensely. You are just so much slower than all these other decks that you can get this value playing Megafin and then actually be able to fight for board. You're still going to lose to Shadow Priest, but at least if they low roll and you high roll, you'll have a chance. Camos. Camos is one of the worst payoff legendaries ever. The whole idea is, of course, you're supposed to play Camos in like an elemental deck as the top end. You know, it's the big payoff legendary of the class, things like that. Scar the Tornado or whatever the fuck. Scar the Catastrophe. Again, really terrible payoff elemental legendary. I will definitely be buffing Scar when I get to Badlands. Don't you fucking worry. But I think that Camos should just be cast 2 elemental invocations. Elemental invocations. I mean, like, come on, dude. The evocations are, one of them is fill your board with 1/1s. One of them is deal damage to all enemy minions. Another is heal 12 to your hero, and another is deal 6 to the enemy hero. Why the fuck can a 7-mana gigantic payoff legendary not just deal 12 to the enemy hero as, like, final push burst damage? That would not be too strong. And then you can also use it to heal yourself for 24. You can build a board, you can clear their board, yada yada yada. I don't see any fucking reason why Camos would be a problem card. It's still a 7-mana 7/7, dude. Like, it's still super slow. Elemental Shaman still sucks, but at least Camos is significantly better. Clutch Mother Zavis. This is like one of the first, like, kind of payoff Deathrattle discard cards. It's not great. You're supposed to play with the Lakari Sacrifice. Pretty terrible. I was thinking, okay, first we have to lower the stats. Whenever you get discard this, give it +1/+1, return to your hand. And I was thinking, +1/+1, summon a copy and return it to your hand. Would this be too strong? I don't think so. I think this would be interesting, for sure. I'm not a big fan of Discard Warlock, do not get me wrong, but I don't think Zavis goes in like an aggro Discard Warlock at all. I think you could use this as like a sort of, how do I word this? Slower kind of Discard Warlock that makes use of things like the new Cho'Gall that was buffed in Caverns of Time, right? Where you're going to have like these more value-oriented Discard Warlock, things like that. I think so this would go in that deck. Would this go in regular discard? Maybe. Getting a free 3/3 and then a 4/4, etc., go on and so on and so forth. Every time you discard it is pretty decent. But you'd have to discard it, which isn't that easy. Especially because, like, if you draw this, you're not too happy. You'd much rather get your 2/5 with Taunt than the 3/3. You definitely do that. But once it gets to 4/4, then you'd probably rather have this. So you have to discard it once before it becomes better than your other options. It's definitely worse than like Silverware Golem. It's a 2-mana card, so like it's hard to discard because a lot of the discard cards would discard your highest cost card. I think this card is completely fine. I think it would be cool. I think it makes it such a much more interesting card. And like, come on, dude, it's a legendary. It should be at least kind of pushed. Let's be real. Ravenous Pterodax is actually a really interesting card. It is really good for like an egg warlock or Deathrattle kind of warlock. So I think the really simple change is just make it like a 2-mana 2/2. It makes it so it's a lot better at popping eggs. Adapting twice is still pretty decent. And because, you know, it's 2 mana, it's just better. I don't know, man. Like, Pterodax is actually a really interesting card. He couldn't make it 1 mana. That would be way too good. But, like, being an egg popper and getting bonus for popping eggs is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. You can make it adapt like 3, 4, 5, however many times, but I don't think that changes the issue of it being too expensive. And I think this is just a very simple change to the card that would make it a lot better. Obviously, I was going to do Fireflames Heart. I mean, come on, dude. It's one of the most iconic Hearthstone cards. It's a gigantic fan favorite card, and I think it's just a simple 5 minions. Wow, it becomes so much better. Taunt Warrior with Quest is okay. It's not amazing, but you can use Sing-Along Buddy and Garrison Commander to deal like 32 damage to your opponent, and that's really fucking funny. Using the Quest will always not be great, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't just make it, you know, better. And a more aggro version of Taunt Warrior will always be better because you're skipping your turn 1, which is bad, you know? And then you have to play like the 3 mana weapon, then you have to hero power for it to get any value and things like that. It's just really hard and a lot of mana that you have to spend for this to be worth it. So I think buffing the completion time by 2, definitely worth it. I mean, this is just a cool card. Instantly going in the thumbnail, by the way. Yeah, I think Fireflames Heart easily could be 5 Taunt minions. Like, come on. I don't think anyone would argue that this would be too big of an issue for Wild. I was thinking, Molten Blade, I already buffed Shifter Xeris, right? So I was thinking, transform into a new weapon when in hand that changes each turn. It costs 1 less each turn in your hand. I think this would be a super, super, super interesting change. It's stronger than Shifter Xeris. Do not get me wrong, the way I did to Shifter Xeris. But weapons are a lot worse than minions, since minions, you know, win you the game. If you got, like, a super crazy minion that you're not supposed to have in your class, it's a lot better than getting, like, a good weapon, right? Plus, a lot of weapons are already cheap anyway, so reducing their cost more than 1 doesn't really change much. I think this would be a really cool card, and, like, Molten Blade is so cool. It's so cool. I love the concept of, like, getting a different weapon, and then you can sometimes high roll. I think that's cool. I don't see any reason, like, oh, dude, I could get Woe Cleaver for 6 mana because it's in my hand twice? Whoa! It's nothing crazy. Yeah, if you keep this in your hand for 5 turns, maybe you'll hit, like, a fucking 8 mana weapon, like Silver Sword. Ooh! Expensive weapons are really bad, is the thing. Like, the most expensive good weapon is probably Hope of Growth Loss at 6. Woe Cleaver is fine, but you don't want to play it in most, like, warrior decks anyway. Rune Spear, probably up there. Yeah, Rune Spear would probably be really good if you discounted it by, like, 3 or 4. But yeah, so I don't see Molten Blade being an issue. There's so many goddamn weapons, and so many of them are terrible. It's just cool. It's just really cool. Do I need to say more? It's Ungoro. We have fucking Frightened Flunky as a 2-mana 2/3. Stonehill Defender can be like maybe even that 2-mana 1/4, 2-mana 1/3. I mean, there's no reason that Stonehill Defender cannot be buffed. It's such an iconic and loved Hearthstone card. It would be a huge buff to Taunt Warrior. It would be just so significant, dude. Like, come on. Stonehill Defender, dude. You can get some buffs. I'm be real here. If you think Stonehill Defender at 2 mana would be too broken, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like, that just makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. Hear me out. Taunt, Elusive, gain plus 2 health for each elemental you played this game. Alright. This is a crazy one. I'm already going to save this one, because this one definitely going on the thumbnail. But you have to consider it this way. What deck is playing elementals enough to make Ozruk maybe gain like 10 health? You have to play like... Maybe that's actually too much. Maybe it should be 1 health. I think about it, because... Yeah, gain 1 health for each elemental you played this game. I'm going to redo that, actually. Think of it this way. Any deck that is playing enough elementals for Ozruk to be kind of crazy needs to also be getting to 8 mana for Ozruk to do anything. Right? Yeah, you understand the predicament there. The only class I think that could really make use of this is Mage, because Mage has things like Confection Cyclone, Flame Geyser, things like that. I think this would be good, like if you had like a control elemental Mage, it would be fine. I don't see any reason with this being too strong. Maybe I should nerf the attack. Maybe that's a little too much. Maybe like 6, right? So it's supposed to be like this big ass bomb late game taunt that is really hard to get through. Like really hard to get through. It can't get it's not easy to get run over by minions. Yes, it still dies to poisonous, but here, maybe make it like a 6/6, something like that. I just feel like this would be cool. Gain +1 health for each elemental you played this game, and elusive makes it significantly better than just being like, I don't know, an 8 mana 8/20 that just gets killed by any spell. If you play like 10 elementals throughout the game for 8 mana, not that hard to do, by the way. This just becomes like an 8/16 bomb. I think this is really cool. I've saved this like a million times, but there, this will be the last one. I think that Ozruk could easily be something like this. Like, this would be actually so cool for a bunch, like an elemental mage, maybe an elemental shaman as like a big late game bomb to go alongside Camos. I just think this is awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I actually really like this design personally. And why can't we have like aggro decks that have gigantic late game bombs that they try to go towards, right? Elemental Mage is not like a crazy fast aggro deck. So it's not something anyone has to worry about. So like it'll fight you, it'll probably not ever kill you before like turn 6 or 7 anyway. And if you're playing a control deck, you're never going to lose to it anyway. So then you get this big payoff of Ozruk that comes down. It's really hard to clear. It hits you in the face, and it gives them a little more time to try and kill you as a slower deck. It's never going to make any use for other aggro decks because it's 8 mana. Yes, in Mage, you can make it 4 mana, but technically 2 mana. You would play the 2-drop, and then you'd play the double elemental evocation, I think it's called. But, come the fuck on, dude. That's not good. Maybe playing this on 6 would be really good. And that's why I nerfed the stats a lot, is I was thinking of that. But, come on, dude. I think that we can have Ozruk be a really good card. I don't see any issue with this, really, at all. Then the last card I want to talk about is Firefly. I've gone over, a million different ways to buff this card in my head, and I'm not sure what you could do. I think that Firefly is an iconic card that people love, especially around this era. It was super, super powerful, and I think one of the best ways that you can do it is you just make it a 1 mana 2/2, right? Same battle cry, same everything. I think this would be fine. It would push elemental decks a lot. It would bring a good 1-drop to a lot of classes that don't have it. Hunter. And it would just be pretty good. That being said, I'm a fucking madman, and I want to do this. I want to do this. I think this is evil, and I want to do it. So I'm gonna do it. I don't care if it's broken. It's my video. Fuck. I love Firefly. I think this would bring a lot of good 1-drops to a lot of different classes that don't really have them. I don't think you would run this in Shadow Priest. Maybe if you're someone that's playing Miracle Salesman in your Shadow Priest, maybe you would play Firefly at 2 mana 2/2, give it a 2/2. But I think this would be so cool. I just think it would be so cool. It would buff the Marsh Queen Hunter that I already put it in. I think this would be so nice. It would give Hunter a good 1-drop. It would give I don't know. I mean, it would give another good 1-drop to Demon Hunter, which it only has 2. It would give Shaman a good 1-drop, which it just doesn't really have. It would give Mage a good 1-drop, which it doesn't really have. I think this would be a very useful card. It would be played in a lot of decks, but I don't think it would be played in like the aggro decks that we're already seeing. While I was editing the video, I was unfortunately reminded this card exists. So the fucking Firefly buff. Fuck, man. Come on. I just wanted to give Elementals like a really good card because Elemental decks are terrible. So atrociously awful. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give, I'll buff Firefly. You know, it's an iconic card, right? That'd be awesome. Fuck, man. Why do they have to print this shit, dude? Fuck. I want it to be good. But yeah, that's Journey to Un'Goro done. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think down below. Did I cook on any of these cards? Did I change any cards that you didn't want changed? Do you think any of these cards are too strong, too weak? Do you also agree that Radiant Elemental needs to get axed, you know, only in parity with Sorcerer's Apprentice? I think it does. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Shadows are rising again,
darker than they've ever been.